Now let's go back to the country status, right? We click on it and we select everything back and we press OK. Voila. So we have the data set. Now we could be almost rest assured that everything is gone, or everyone here seem to have their country status indicated. Of course, like this created an empty space here. You could just equally click it and delete it. So it's fine. Yeah. So now that is that. There are also several ways, you can count to see like how many people, how many visits, nights and stuff like that. But that is basically all for now. I also want to know maybe the deposit status, right? Or the deposit type. That is, did they like put a deposit before, did they deposit something before, they checked in or not? So you want to know the deposit status in the same way. You just have to use unique, or you can equally use the filter function. But I want to use unique once again, so I just go there, I press equal to, then I type the unique function, unique, then I select it, and I want to know the unique status of this one, and I just close it, right, and press enter. Now we're able to know the unique status. Let's make this bold once again, so Control B, and we know that. So some people did not deposit at all, whilst others did. So there's no deposit. There's also refundable, then non-refund. So these are the categories we have under that. In the same way, you can go on ahead and use unique to check. And if you want to clean again, if you know you're going to make use of how many people, for instance, you want to answer the business question that how many people really put deposit before they checked in, because it's not obligatory. So it's optional. But let's see how many people really wanted to put a deposit before. If you want to get that, or if you want to work with that as part of your business intelligence duties or assignment, why not? You could equally cross-check that. But for instance, if we apply the filter button here, right? We select the whole thing and apply the filter button. We can know whether they are blanks or not. So clearly, there are some people who did not state, or the part of the data that did not state anything. That is whether they put a deposit or not, or like non-refund or refundable. So if we select the blanks like this, we could see that, oh, it's basically empty. There are no people, right? So this is great. Everyone stated that. So we go on to it. In the same way, you want to check this one as well, the customer type. You want to know the uniqueness of it. You could use the unique to check, or you could, normally I want to use the filter to rather clear or delete those ones. Yeah, so I want to do the same for the customer type status. So once again, I want to use the unique function. I just go there and I type in unique once again, and I want to know this from the column here, and I just need to close the bracket and press enter, and it gives me that. So there are, then once again, I make this one bold, so Control B. And so I know that there is what transient, there's contract, there's transient party, then there's also group. So these are the types of customer we have, or the types of customers we have over there. So go ahead and try and do it. For instance, for the distribution channels, which distribution channels seem to bring in more people, or seem to have brought in lots of booking. So you could check that one as well. You could extend this a bit to see there is also, I think, some of this is just stuck over there. Yes, so that you'll be able to know. And if you want to work with it, it's also equally a very important business intelligence question that, hey, which distribution channels are we getting more bookings from, and where should we prioritize, or where should we basically get rid of? So these are ways of trying to clean your data. So I guess that is that for now. I feel the data is quite clean for what I want to do with it, because I want to make a pivot table out of it. So I guess it's important that uh, we make sure that now almost every part or every cell is filled up. there is no empty cells, or there aren't any empty cells. And if you want to check, you could also use that blank or count blank to see how many spaces, or how many places or rows are empty. All right, so I think we're good to go. But before we go on to do anything to a data set, or to go to the pivot table, so that we'll be able to answer these questions here, right? I think we need to clear these things here. So I'm gonna clear unique. I don't want anything appearing. Okay, so just go ahead and delete everything. Yes, now the data looks nice. All right, so before we go on to do anything, there are several ways of inserting like a pivot table, right? You can go on ahead and just go to insert and pivot table. Just select any part of the table and go to like pivot table, and you get it. But there is also another way, right? Before we just go into that, I want to have a quick look, or maybe a quick tables, to look at some key information about this data set, right? So for that, I can just press Control Q, for instance, this one. So when you press Control Q, it'll give you this small table here, right? And for instance, you can build data bars from this based on that. You could also, color code it based on, the charts. Then you'll be able to get, for instance, the top 10%. For instance, from something else, maybe you want to know the top 10%, you know, the leading time or stuff like that. So you could get a quick one. So once again, just Control Q, and it will give you that, right? Okay, so let's move on to construct our pivot table. Just press escape and it'll go away. Now, to insert a pivot table, we need to, so we're back to the home button. We need to select at least a cell from the whole data set, right? So we just select any cell you want. Then we can go to either insert pivot table like this, and from the table range below, or we can also press Control T, right? Which is like a shortcut, Control T, basically Control Table. Then it's going to select the entire data set. Then it says my table has headers. Yes, we could see that the tables don't have headers here, right? Then we press OK. There we go. So the whole table is selected, right? Good. Now it is easy to insert a pivot table, right? So we can just go home. To the home button, like, and back to insert. Then we go to select pivot table, right? So this is a table range we want to put a pivot table for. So we just have to select the whole range. And now we get asked, are we gonna want to have it on like the same table, or do we want to have it in another sheet here? Like, for instance, open a whole new sheet. We said, well, we want to have it on a new worksheet. We don't want to have it here because this is like our primary data source. We want to have it in another place. So we just select in a new sheet, in a new worksheet, and we press OK. And here we go. We have our pivot table page appearing. All right, so go on ahead and try it for yourself and see how you can also do manipulate it, because the more you do, the more you remember a lot of these stuff. I don't remember some of these stuff because it's not something I do all the time. So it's good to also practice and do it, you know, try different data sources and stuff like that. So that is what we have here. Now, before we start answering like questions, these questions here, what countries have the highest number of client based on reservation, like top 10, how many cancellation do we get within what period, so I want to tell you something briefly about pivot tables. So pivot tables are a really nice way of finding information, like when there is a huge data set, or it goes down to also look at the granularity of the data, right? If you're having a granular data, then you want to like look at it in different angles, right? So let's look at this one here. there are several ways of like making or turning this pivot table. I mean, the interface are very different. You could change it first, and I want to keep it this way, right? But there are other options. You can go here and select here you want. So you can see these are just the filter, the columns, and the rows, and the pane. I mean, the value. So there are several ways of formatting um, the pivot table pane. And so these are the fields you could see. You could change it in different ways. Now let's go back to uh, the main business intelligence questions. It said, what countries have the highest number of clients based on reservation? Maybe the top 10. So you always need to fish out the key. That's why I kind of underlined this one here. The key words. So countries, one, then reservations, two. Now let's go into our pivot table back here, right? We can clearly select, right? So this is like a canvas, right? You could just drag and drop it, or you could just click it here and it'll select it, right? So it's all up to you how you want to go about it. But we need country and we also need their reservation status, right? Now something is going to happen, so I want you to pay attention to this place. So we select the country, right? And it gives us the list of all the countries, right? Remember, now we want the top 10 countries, right? That makes the highest number of bookings or reservation. Now we also have reservation status, right? So let's go and do something with reservation status. Now let's select the reservation status, right? So where is the reservation? So we have reservation status here. Now let's select it and see what happens. So we select it and it goes to the rows, right? And it gives us the three categories. You can see just canceled, checkout, and no show. These are the three categories for almost all the countries. Now we don't want it there. Let's move it around maybe to show in the columns, right? To show here. Remember, these are the rows and these are the columns, right? So we want to put the reservation status under the column. Now let's see what happens. Okay, so we put it here and now we have the countries labels showing and we have the columns A, B, C in that order here. So cancel, checkout, no show, then those that are blank, then the total. Is that what we really want? Well, looks like it's not really answering the question. Why? So this is because, let me just uncheck it. So I just unchecked it, right? I just unchecked it. Now we are looking for numbers because it is from the numbers that we can rank the top 10 and not just the countries. So what we need to do is to rather use the names of people who booked because we've cleaned the data and we are sure that every single person who seemed to have booked indicated their names and also their country status because we've cleaned the data and we are now 100% sure that any person who did book seemed to have indicated or must have indicated their country status. So we're going to use rather the count of names, right? And so to do that, let's just select and see what happens. We select the name, right? Remember, it's taking time because now it's going to count every country, the names. That's why it took some time. Remember, we're dealing with over 100,000 rows of names. So now we put every country, I mean, every name under their country where they booked from in alphabetical order. Look at it, right? But that is still not what we want. We rather want a count of the names and not just the list of the names, right? Because it's from the count that we get a number, and from the number we can rank. Okay, so to do that, it means we just have to move the name to a place where we can count, and it's values that we can count. So we move this one to the values, and there we go. So that's how it works. Now we have the names of each country, right? And I mean, Armenia, 8, Argentina, we could see, so that is it. Now we have the names and the countries they came from. So let's move on to see what can we do. We still have not answered the question because it said the country have the highest number of clients based on reservation status. So we have to go back and try and filter it out, right? Or at least rearrange it in alphabetical, or at least in descending or ascending order. Now let's go over here. We can select it from here, right? A to Z. Let's look at something that's also going to happen here. We do A to Z, A to Z, and nothing happens, right? Because now the names are rearranged. We can see A, B, AG in that order. The names are rearranged. The country names are rearranged, but the numbers still remain the same. We are working with this one, right? So the best way to do this is just select, go there once again, and we have to go to the more options. And what we want to do, we rather want to count the names and not the countries in alphabetical order. So it's the name, I mean the count of name, not the country in alphabetical order. So we have to change this one to the count of name. And what do we want to do with this one? So we just want to know the count, and we press what? Okay, right? Do we want to have it in ascending order or descending order? It's all up to us. We have to just, but I think we want to do it in descending order, right? Which means from top to down. So let's rather select this one, and we select once again, not the country, but the count of the names, and we press OK. There we go. So we see that there is Portugal, there's Great Britain, there's France, there is Spain, in that order it comes, right? So that is how we get it, or that's how we get to answer the first question. But we're not fully done with it, right? It says that the highest number of clients, right, based on reservation, maybe the top 10, right? So we can now get the top 10 from here if we want. We want to go again to the same place, and remember, we're looking for the value, right? So the value that is like the top 10, right? So if we want to also calculate, we can put in, let's say, value that is equal to 10,000, then it's going to find it for us. But we want the top 10, so we can just select the top 10. You could see that there are several options for you here. If you want those less than that, those equal to that, those between this number and that, let's say those between 10,000 and 20,000, you can also do that. But we want the top 10, so we just select the top 10. And we just press OK. And that is it. We have our top 10 countries, and this is the total number of people, right? So there's the ground total, and this is the countries. So Portugal to the Netherlands. Now you can go ahead and put up a design, change it, do whatever you like to it. Maybe just keep it all simple, right? But maybe something like that or that or this or that. It's all up to you. The choice is yours. Just go and go on and change it and do stuff you like with it. Yeah, it's all up to you. Okay. All right. So that is that for the first question. Now we're going to move on to the second question. It says that how many cancellations did we get within what period? So here we're going to use the time or the date and the cancellation status, right? Good. All right, good. So to do that, I want to have the same answer, right? I want to use the same pivot table, right? So, and I want it to be on the same data page, or I want it to be in the same page. I don't want it to be on another sheet, or I don't want it to be on another page. So I want it to be here. And that means that inserting more than one pivot table, right, on the same sheet. So to do that, it means we need to go back and select the same um, data set to appear on the pivot table, because when we select this one, we're going to get this, right? But when we want to do another one or add another one, the pivot table, we have to go again back to insert, then what, pivot table. So we have to select that, then the same table range, right? And now it's whether we want it on a new sheet or an existing sheet. So this is the existing sheet and we want it here, so we keep it on the existing sheet. Now, what is the table range? This is very important. It means it's the same data set we're using, right? So we go back to this table range here, right? And we have to select the whole thing, or we have to select the whole data set to be able. So we go here, we select that, and to select, we have to be careful when we're selecting here, right? So we have to select this way. Then we can also use Control Shift, then to the left arrow keys to select everything, right? Now, or I mean to the right arrow keys to select. So Control Shift and the right arrow keys to select the end of the table. Then we press OK. Right. So you see we have the same table selected here again, but here to answer a different question. Okay. Now back again to the question. It's cancellation and period or monthly. So which means we're going to be using the date and also the cancellation status. So we go back to it back here. So where is the cancellation status? This is cancelled, right? So we select is cancelled and it gives us the total number that was cancelled. Now we need to use the time, right? So let's go here to check for the date status. Well, I am checking for the date status. Okay, so there it is. So we have the reservation status date. So we select it this way and it gives us that. So you could see that this was like 2014. How many cancellations did we get? 2015, how many cancellations did we get? 2016, how many cancellations did we get? Then 2017, and the grand total. So these are the total number of cancellations we got. So there are some years we got more cancellation, right? For instance, in 2016, we had the highest number of cancellation, right? So once again, that is it. But let's go back to the question. It says what period, right? So monthly, now we don't have that. So we have to go work on it. Now to do that, well, we can design this a bit, try and make this one also look like just this one if we want. We just go down here and select that one and it's going to look a bit like that. Now, we need to insert what is called a slicer so that we're able to know which month, so that we can kind of basically slice the years into months, right? So that we're able to determine or we're able to tell that, oh, in this month of January or February or March, or that we have this number of people coming in and that, or this number of cancellations. So to do that, we have this one here and we have to insert something, right? We have to insert a slicer. So we go back to the pivot table here and we go to insert slicer or insert timeline. Now remember, we're looking for a timeline that is January because it's month, days, and stuff like that. So we have to rather insert a timeline. So we select insert. Now, automatically it asks us, so how do we want to, um, you know, have the timeline or the slicer look like? Yes, we want to use the reservation status date because it's only the date that can give us that. So we select date and we press OK. And there we have it. So we have the slicer, right, that indicates the months. So you can see 2017. So when we select 2017, because it starts from January, I mean, sorry, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Then it moves on to the next year to like 2016, 2014, 2015. Now, this is the option we have. Let's maybe make this one also look a bit greener, maybe like that. Yeah. But this is in months, right? Look over here. When you look here, you would see that this is in months. So when we select the month, for instance, in November, there was no cancellation. Then in November, in October, it gives it that. And in August, there was that, you know, and that. So it means this one is in months. So when we just click here, everything will go off and it come back to the original. Now, let's go back to this one. We can change this to quarters. We can also, so this is Q1. This is 2015, 2016, 2014, sorry, 2015, 2016, 17, and that's so. If we select Q1, yes, we can see no cancellation in the first quarter of 2014. Second quarter, no cancellation. Third quarter, the same thing. Oh, then in the fourth quarter, there were like 181 cancellations. Now, what is the fourth quarter? Well, maybe people don't really book our hotels when it's getting to the end of the year or when it's getting to the final quarter of the year. So even if they book, we get to, I mean, we get to see more cancellations or they cancel a lot. Maybe it's Christmas, more disruptions and stuff like that could come. Then 2015, the same thing, first quarter, second quarter. So we can also check. So that is that. But remember, the question is on monthly. So we can even narrow it down to days if we want, but we just want to keep it at monthly because that is what it was about. So in the month of April 2016, we had that. In the month of May 2016, we have that. So that is how, if you want to get rid of all this, you just have to clear the selected the filter from here and you're fine to go. So this is how we also respond to the question number 2. Now, yes, and that was how many cancellations we get within what period of month. So you could check and also see which month gave us the highest number of cancellations by just selecting the month and noticing it. Now let's go to number 3. It said which countries have the highest and lowest cancellations. That is the top 10 in descending order, right? Okay. So to do that,